Namaskar and good evening, viewers. My name is Bhaskar, and I'm back with another edition of TED at TED, the Have Your Say Club show. Hope you all are safe and healthy. As we know, the festival season has begun, and the beauty is that every festival is celebrated differently in different parts of India, isn't it? Well, it is Navratri time. For some, it is a time of religious reflection and fasting, and for some, mostly like me, dancing and feasting. But this time it is not going to be the same as the last times because we are still not over with COVID. So we have to be very, very cautious while celebrating our festivals. Well, on this occasion of Navratri, on this auspicious occasion of Navratri, we thought of doing something different. We thought of talking about Navratri. For this, I have with me a very, very special member of our club who was a management graduate from IMT Ghaziabad, an ex banker, now a reader, blogger, and a speaker. He has been reading Bhagavad Gita regularly for almost 2 decades. He gives speeches on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita on various platforms. We have with us Mr. Pranjal Joshi. Hi Pranjal, good evening. How are you?
भास्कर, जय माता दी। जय
Jai
माता
Mata Di.
दी। आप सभी को नवरात्रि की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं।
Absolutely. Aapko bhi. So, Pranjal, as I mentioned in my introduction, that you've been reading Bhagavad Gita regularly for almost 2 decades now. How did you start reading Bhagavad Gita? How did you start generating interest in these scriptures?
It was in the year 2003, around 2003, that I took the message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita very seriously. Since my childhood, I have been a
Yeah.
religious person, a religious-minded person. But around 2 decades ago, as you said, I started taking more interest in this subject as I felt that this gives the right direction to a human being. The Bhagavad Gita is a manual. Just like we buy anything from the market, if you buy a watch from the market, the watch comes with a manual. Bhagavad Gita is the manual for every human being. It is the foundation. It should be the foundation of our lives because it teaches us how to live and it gives us the right direction in life. These are the divine words of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, which He shared with Arjun more than 5,000 years ago. And I just love this divine wisdom.
Superb. Well, you've been reading scriptures, for a long time now. I'm sure you must be well informed about all the festivals that we have, and India being the land of festivals, uh, this is the festive time, and we are starting with Navratri. So, why don't you start by sharing the significance of Navratri? Why this festival is celebrated? What's the significance of this festival?
So Navratri is a very important festival. It is Sanskrit is a very beautiful language. Before I talk about Navratri, I would like to talk about Sanskrit because Sanskrit is the only language in the world in which if you use a word, the word would mean exactly the same as the person for whom the word is used. I clarify what I want to say. Krishna is a word which means all attractive. Lord Krishna was all attractive. The word Ram means source of eternal pleasure, eternal bliss. Lord Ram had those qualities. He was those qualities personified. Like that, we called Sita as Janaki because she is daughter of Raja Janak or King Janak. So every name clarifies the person whose name it is. So that's the beauty of Sanskrit. Now coming to the significance of Navratri, it is made of two words, Nav and Ratri. Nav means night, Ratri means night. So these are very special 9 days when we worship the divine feminine energy, the mother goddess, in 9 different forms. So there is a very specific pastime mentioned in our scriptures. Long ago, there was a demon named Mahishasura. Mahishasur asked his father that we are always defeated by the devatas or the gods. I want to find a way out. I want the demons to win. So this person Mahishasur stood on just one leg under a tree and did severe tapasya or austerity for many years. He did tapasya of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma got pleased. Lord Brahma appeared before him and asked him for a boon. Mahishasur asked him, "O Lord Brahma, make me immortal." Lord Brahma said that everyone who is born has to die one day. So I cannot make you immortal. Then he asked for something else because he knew he couldn't be immortal. So he told Lord Brahma, "Brahmaji, give me another boon. Give me a boon that I couldn't be killed by a man or by God." That was what he asked Lord Brahma for. A man or a god cannot kill me. And this demon Mahishasur was gigantic. He was huge. So he was very confident that a woman couldn't kill him, looking at his strength. So this is what he asked Lord Brahma for. And Lord Brahma granted him that boon, Tathastu. After getting this boon, Mahishasur unleashed a reign of terror. Along with his followers, who were also asuras or demons, he started harassing the saintly people. He started plundering, he started looting, he started killing, and everybody got terrified by Mahishasur. Then he challenged the gods. But since he had that boon, he went to Amravati and challenged Lord Indradev. But he couldn't be defeated by Indradev. He couldn't be defeated by Lord Shiv, Mahadev. He couldn't be defeated by Lord Brahma himself, and he couldn't be defeated by the Supreme Lord Vishnu as well, because he had that boon. So Lord Vishnu got an idea. He told Lord Brahma and Lord Shiv, "Let's combine our powers and create a goddess. Let's combine our power and create a goddess who would kill this demon Mahishasur. Because she would be a woman, and a woman can kill Mahishasur, he will be killed." So they used their powers to create a goddess. Her name was Durga or Mahadevi. Mahadevi is wife of or consort of Mahadev. Durga is a form of Parvati Devi. So this is why we celebrate Navratri, because after goddess Durga appeared, she was engaged in a fierce battle with the demon Mahishasur, and that battle lasted for 9 days. Now this demon was clever. Every time he would assume different forms, but on the 9th day, at the last, he assumed the form of a buffalo, and in this form he was killed by the mother goddess. We have all seen mother goddess riding a lion and killing a demon. The demon is Mahishasur. And since this battle lasted for 9 days, this festival is known as Navratri. And goddess is also known as Mahishasur Mardini. As I just told you about the beauty of the most ancient language and the perfect language, Sanskrit, the word Mardini means one who killed. Mahishasur. Mahishasur, the demon, was killed by goddess. So she came to be known as Mahishasur Mardini. And there is a temple in South India, Mahishasur Mardini temple. And if you search on YouTube, you will find sacred chants, Mahishasur Mardini chants dedicated to her. That was the temple in South India was built by the Pallav dynasty way back in the 7th century. See the beauty of Indian heritage and architecture. So long back, we had first-class, majestic temples in India. So this pastimes gives us a lot of messages. And this precisely answers your question why we celebrate Navratri is killing of the evil by the goddess. So we dedicate these 9 days to worship the Divine Mother.
Indeed, indeed, very, very beautifully put. And I think the story in itself is very interesting. And I actually, frankly, I did not know about this story. And I'm sure our viewers would also be finding this story very interesting because we've been celebrating Navratri for all our lives, but then hardly it ever comes to our mind that what was the reason this entire festival started. So that's a great way to start our conversation. Uh, Pranjal, also, among all the festivals, obviously we start our festival season with Navratri, but then there is something which is very, very special about Navratri. There is something which makes it special among all festivals. According to you, what is that speciality about this festival?
There are many specialties about this festival, Bhaskar, but I would like to share a few with you. Navaratri is 9 days, and on each and every day of this 9-day festival, a specific form of goddess is worshipped. Kal Ratri, Skandamata, Shailputri, and so on. Every form is different. Every form symbolizes something different. The appearance of goddess is different. The pastime is different. And the reason is also different why goddess is in 9 forms. This is one thing which makes it special. Another specialty about Navratri is India. This is a specialty of India as well. India is the only place in the world. India is the only country in the world where the divine feminine energy, the feminine form, is worshipped for 9 days. And this is not the only festival. We celebrate Sita Navami. Just like we have Ram Navami, we have Sita Navami as well. Just like we have Shri Krishna Janmashtami, we have Radha Ashtami as well. These are the appearance days of the goddess, Sita and Radha respectively. Even we have holy places dedicated to Mother Goddess. Janakpur, Sitamarhi are associated with Sita Devi. And Barsana and Raval in Braj Bhumi are associated with Srimati Radharani. So see how special India is and how special Sanatan Dharma is. We are worshipping the feminine form of Mother Goddess. And in this festival in particular, which comes twice a year, we are celebrating a different form on every single day. So this is something exquisite and unique.
Great. Also, tell us a bit about the 9 forms of Goddess Durga.
Yeah. So every day a different form of goddess is worshipped. So there are different forms, as I just mentioned. So on the first day of Navratri, Shailputri is worshipped. Putri means daughter, and Shail means mountains. She is the daughter of Himalaya. She is Mooladhar Shakti to be realized within self and sought for higher depths in yogic meditation. She wears white clothes. Second day is Brahmacharini. Brahmacharya is linked to celibacy. She symbolizes austerity and tapasya. Brahmacharya. She was doing this tapasya to please Lord Shiva. Third day, Chandra Ghanta is worshipped. Chandra means moon. Ghanta means bell. She adorns her forehead with half moon shaped bell. She is ready for war against demons. Sound of the moon bell on her forehead drives away all evils from the lives of her worshippers or devotees. Then on the fourth day, we worship Kushmanda. Kushmanda. Ku means little, Ushma means energy, and And here means universe. She created the universe with energy and warmth, and she gives power even to the sun. Skandamata is worshipped on the fifth day. Skand is Kartikeya or Murugan. Skand Mata has 4 hands. She's holding lotus in 2 hands. In one hand, she is in Abhay Mudra, giving us blessings. And in the 4th hand or the right hand, she is holding Kartikeya or Murugan or Skand, who is sitting on her lap. That is why she is known as Skand Mata. On the 6th day, we worshipped Katyayani. She is the daughter of a sage, a rishi named Katyayan. And she killed Mahishasur demon. Today we are worshipping Katyayani. Then Kal, Ratri. Kal means death. She's death personified. Ratri means night. This is the most fierce form of the goddess. She killed 2 demons, Shumb and Nishumb. Then on the 8th day, Mahagauri is worshipped. She has a very fair complexion, and she is the goddess of purity and cleanliness. And on the 9th and final day, Siddhi Dhatri is worshipped. Siddhi means mystic powers, and Dhatri means one who gives mystic powers. So Siddhi Dhatri means one who gives supernatural and mystic powers to her worshippers. So these were the 9 different forms of goddess who are worshipped on 9 different days in Navratris.
So precisely, every goddess, teaches or represents a virtue, like celibacy or warmth or the power that they have. That's also very informative. I never knew about this because I was busy playing Garba almost in every Navratri. But then, great talking to you here. Also, Pranjal, there are 2 Navratris which are celebrated in a year, right? So, how are these 2 Navratris different from each other? If you can put some light on that.
There are 2 Navratris in a year. This is called Sharadya Navratri. We are moving from summers to winter season.
Okay.
Another Navratri is Chaitra Navratri, when we move from winter to summer season. When Lord Ramchandra was about to kill Ravan, he worshipped goddess Durga. So he did not want to wait for the next 6 months for the Chaitra Navratri to appear. So that is why this Navratri is celebrated, because Lord Ramchandra worshipped goddess Durga during this period before he killed Ravan. And Ravan was killed on the day of Dashera, which is the 10th day. Dashmi, Vijaya Dashmi. So that is the reason why 2 Navratras are celebrated. And another pastime linked to goddesses of Shakti Peeth, which also is important for us to know.
Tell us something about that also.
Bhaskar, it's very interesting and it's important for our viewers to know about Shakti Peeth. In India, we celebrate so many festivals. India is the land of festivals, and festivals are the beauty of India. We have Diwali, we have Holi, we have Raksha Bandhan, we have Janmashtami, we have Ram Navami. If we read about these festivals and why we celebrate them from our great scriptures, we will be fascinated to read ancient wisdom. They are so beautifully explained in the scriptures. As far as Shakti Peeth are concerned, they are related to Parvati Devi. Prajapati Daksh was the father of Sati. And Prajapati Daksh did not like, in fact, he hated Lord Shiv. And Sati was the wife of Lord Shiv. So he insulted Shiv and Parvati in a Mahayagya. There was a big fire sacrifice or yagna, a Mahayagna, which was organized. And all goddesses and gods were present there, and great sages were present there. And before everyone, he abused and humiliated Shiv and Parvati. And Sati couldn't bear the insult of her husband. She entered into that Yagna Kund and immolated herself. Sati left. And Lord Shiv, Mahadev, started doing Tandav Nritya, he was in deep sorrow and grief, and he was carrying Sati like this in his arms. And Lord Vishnu knew that as long as he is holding Sati Devi in his arms like this, he can never come out of that deep sorrow. So he used his Sudarshan to cut the body of Sati, and it went into 52 different pieces, and they fell on earth. And that is why we have 52 different Shakti Peeth. And at every Shakti Peeth, goddess is worshipped. And Lord Shiv is present in every Shakti Peeth as Shivling. This symbolizes that he can never be separated from his divine consort. So there are 52 Shakti Peeth, and some places in the scriptures it is written there are 108. But out of these 52, 18 are prominent. And there are 3 which are the most prominent Shakti Peeth, as they represent the most important and vital aspect of the goddess. There are so many Shakti Peeth, you go there, these are the centers of divine feminine energy. And Lord Shiv and Goddess Parvati are present there.
Interesting. I mean, we actually swayed away from the topic of Navratri, but then the way you were explaining and the richness of the stories that we have from our past, that is so fascinating that I could not stop myself, and I asked you about Shakti Peeths, and I think this is again a very, very interesting story. Great. So coming back to our topic of Navratri, and this is going to be my favorite question, Pranjal. I have played Garba a lot during Navratri. What is the significance of playing Garba or Dandiya during Navratri?
Garba and Dandiya are worship of the goddess. They started from villages in Gujarat.
Mm-hmm.
Garba comes from the word Garbh. Garbh is a Sanskrit word which means womb. And Deep is a Sanskrit word which means a lamp. So they would put a picture of goddess or the deity of goddess and worship her with lamp, and all around that they would encircle her and dance with their they would dance in a particular way. We all seen Garba. So this actually started from villages in Gujarat, and it is still going on. The legacy is still going on. The traditions are still there. And Dandiya is done is the word taken from stick. And Dandiya Ras was played by Lord Krishna in Brajbhumi. So
Okay.
this is taken from there, and they use sticks to worship the goddess. But these days, if you go for big pandal programs, Garba and Dandiya go together. And in fact, even Bollywood has taken up this idea. There are so many Bollywood songs and films which have Garba and Dandiya as theme. There are many popular songs on Navratri.
Yes.
And the Indian diaspora, the people of Indian origin, and the NRIs have taken Indian traditions and festivals all across the globe. So Navratras are now celebrated everywhere, and it's a big festival. It's a big event these 9 days.
Interesting. Well, we've talked about why Navratri is celebrated. Then we've also talked about 9 forms of Goddess Durga and why Navratri is special. And the stories, the 2 stories that you specifically narrated, those were very beautiful. We were able to draw certain lessons from those stories. But then specifically, if I talk about Navratri, what do you think are the lessons one can draw?
In current scenario, we can focus on 2 things specifically.
Mhm.
Though I talked about the 9 different forms of goddess, and every form signifies something. Right? So we are getting great message from the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees, as mentioned in the scriptures. We are getting to know so much, and we are getting so much knowledge and wisdom and messages. But one important message is fasting. Fasting enhances our spiritual advancement, it leads to better health, and tons of food will be saved as well. There was a time when Lal Bahadur Shastri ji was the honorable prime minister of our country, and there was scarcity of food shortage in India. Then he appealed to the nation, why not to fast? And because of that fast and the respect and love people had for Shastri ji, people started fasting, and because of that fast, cannot imagine how much food grains were saved. And country eventually came out of that crisis.
Yes.
Our honorable prime minister, he also fasts for these 9 days. Modi, he sometimes takes only falahar. So a lot of people in India, right, who avoid tamasic food during these festivals, who uh, are very particular about their food habits, who take only fruits. So these 9 days of austerity helps them in advance. So that's one thing in particular about Navratri. People do more, we call it Path Puja or worship. People are more inclined towards religion, religious activities, and spirituality. That's one important thing. Second is, in Buddhist tradition, they have yin and yang, right? These are two complementary forces. They complement each other. So all of us have masculine and feminine energies. Masculine energies are fire, feminine energies are water. Masculine energies are yang, feminine energies are yin. So in the current scenario, there is more dominance and prominence of masculine energies in each one of us. And because of this imbalance, since there is imbalance within us, this same imbalance is manifested in the external world around us. So when we balance the two energies, and there are ways of doing it, there is meditation, there are techniques of balancing the two. We need more feminine energy within us. Virtues like compassion are feminine virtues. We need to absorb them more so as to create an equilibrium between the two forces or two forms of energies. And in these 9 days, we are worshipping the divine feminine energy. So that's another important aspect of Navratri, which I would like to highlight, which I shared with you just.
Yeah, I mean, I really found it extremely interesting because you've connected two different things in a very beautiful and a subtle way. The worshipping of the feminine power and how you connected it to yin and yang, and then how we have to maintain the balance. That's really, I mean, no one could have done it better than you. I really am sure about it. That was a lot of information, and I hope our viewers are really enjoying this conversation also. Uh, you've been reading scriptures, as we mentioned in the start, for a very, very long time now. Pranjal, if someone has to start reading scriptures, you know, where one should start from?
One should definitely read the Vedic scriptures. And this is a very good question, because if someone really wants to start, as I mentioned in the beginning of the session, Bhagavad Gita is the best. Bhagavad Gita is the greatest. Bhagavad Gita is divine wisdom. When we read the Bhagavad Gita, we are actually connecting with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna personally. And it's easy to understand. It's not difficult to understand at all. So when we read the Bhagavad Gita, we get to know a lot, and our misconceptions are clarified. We become more enlightened. The Gita takes us closer to the absolute truth. So I strongly recommend and urge all our viewers to read the Bhagavad Gita. This is a special recommendation from my end.
So now our viewers know where to start from.
Exactly.
Pranjal, yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying this conversation a lot, but then since time is also a virtue, so we'll have to take care of that. My last question would be, Any message that you have for our viewers on this auspicious occasion of Navratri?
To all the viewers, I wish a very happy Navratri. Thank you very much for watching this video. Jai Mata Di. And whenever you celebrate a festival, that's the last thing I want to say. Please read these scriptures. You'll come to know so much about the festival. You will come to know exactly why the festival is so special. And you will also realize the beauty of our traditions, our past, and you will get to know a lot. You will be truly enlightened.
Fantastic, a great way to end our conversation. And we've talked about, everything. We've touched upon every aspect of Navratri. Why it was celebrated, 9 forms of goddess Durga, 2 Navratris in a year, some lessons. We also discussed about Garba and Dandiya. So I think it was a very, very fulfilling conversation. The two takeaways that I definitely have from this conversation are: one is fasting, because it is not only for your good metabolism, it is not only beneficial for your good metabolism, but then it is also very, very important for your spiritual growth. And secondly, very interesting point, we've been celebrating these festivals all our lives, but we never really know the story, we never really know the rationale behind every festivity that we have. I think we should be aware of our roots, and the best way to do that is to go to our scriptures, read those stories, and these stories are really very, very, very interesting. Two of them were shared by Pranjal. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed our today's interaction, and I hope you've also drawn some lessons, some learnings from it. We will be back again next week with another interesting edition of Tete a Tete. Till then, what you have to do is take care of yourself, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye bye.